In December 2024, a federal judge sentenced Corey Willis, the owner of Power Performance Enterprises Incorporated in Louisiana, to 3 years of federal probation, with the first 10 months served under home detention. The court ordered Willis and his company to pay a combined total of $3.1 million in criminal fines and civil penalties. The charge was manufacturing and selling emissions defeat devices. Willis's company, known in the diesel performance world simply as PPEI, had tuned an estimated 175,000 vehicles. Monthly revenue had once exceeded $1 million. Willis started as a diesel enthusiast who became a business owner because other diesel owners needed exactly what he was building. He ended as a federal defendant. In February 2025, an Indiana man was sentenced to 4 months in federal prison and a fine of $25,000 after pleading guilty to tampering with emissions monitoring systems on hundreds of diesel vehicles. His operation had grossed $4.3 million between 2019 and 2021. In 2024, a Nebraska diesel performance shop faced over $670,000 in EPA fines for emissions violations. In Washington state, the owners of Racing Performance Maintenance Northwest were convicted of conspiring to violate the Clean Air Act for tampering with diesel monitoring systems. Each was fined $10,000 and sentenced to 3 years of federal probation. From 2015 through 2025, federal prosecutors finalized over 170 civil enforcement cases, with total penalties reaching $55.5 million. At least 17 criminal cases resulted in $5.6 million in fines and 54 months of collective incarceration. That last number is 4.5 years of combined prison time, served by Americans for working on diesel trucks. These are not warnings. These are sentences and fines that have already been handed down. And if you own a diesel truck, and you have ever considered tuning it, or if a shop has ever offered to tune it, what happened to these men is the legal landscape you are operating in right now. Today, we are going to give you the complete and accurate picture of exactly where the law stands in 2026 on diesel tuning, the actual federal statute, the actual enforcement cases, the actual limits of what changed with the DOJ memo, the documented hypocrisy of who gets fined and who pays nothing, and what every diesel truck owner needs to know before they make a decision that costs them more than the repair they were trying to avoid. Part 1. The law as it stands. Section 203 of the Clean Air Act prohibits any person from tampering with an emission control device on a motor vehicle. Removing it, rendering it inoperative, bypassing it in software, all of it is covered. The EPA can impose civil penalties of up to $45,268 per non-compliant vehicle or engine, $4,527 per tampering event or per defeat device sold, and $45,268 per day for record-keeping violations. Those numbers are adjusted annually for inflation. They are not theoretical maximums reserved for corporations. They apply to individual truck owners. They apply to the shop that tuned your truck. They apply to the company that sold the kit. And under the statute as written, each component removed can constitute a separate violation. Remove the EGR, remove the DPF, remove the DEF system. That is potentially 3 separate violations on a single truck. On January 21, 2026, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche issued a directive to federal prosecutors instructing them to stop pursuing criminal charges against individuals who install emissions defeat devices. The memo removed the risk of federal prison time for individual truck owners and shop operators. The Autopian reviewed the memo directly and confirmed that civil penalties remain fully applicable. The EPA retains full authority to investigate and to impose fines. What changed is criminal exposure only. The Clean Air Act was not amended. Section 203 was not repealed. Civil fines of up to $45,000 per violation remain on the books and remain actively enforceable. State enforcement in California, New York, Colorado, New Jersey, and a growing list of other states is completely unchanged. The Department of Justice memo did not affect the California Air Resources Board's enforcement authority. It did not affect the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. It did not affect Colorado's inspection regime. It changed one important thing. The federal government stopped sending individual tuners and shop owners to prison. It did not make what they do legal. President Trump also pardoned Troy Lake Sr., the owner of Elite Diesel Service in Colorado, in November 2025. Lake had pleaded guilty in December 2024 to disabling onboard diagnostic systems on at least 344 heavy-duty commercial trucks. He had been ordered to pay $52,200 and sentenced to 1 year and 1 day in federal prison. He served 7 months before the pardon relieved him. That pardon was specific to Troy Lake. It established no legal precedent for anyone else. The Clean Air Act under which Lake was convicted is the same statute in force today for every other diesel truck owner and every other shop in America. Part 3. What the manufacturers did while owners were being prosecuted. Here is the dimension of this story that makes the enforcement picture impossible to ignore, without talking about who was not prosecuted and what they paid instead. In January 2024, the EPA and the Department of Justice announced that Cummins Incorporated had agreed to pay $1.675 billion in civil penalties to resolve claims that it had installed emissions defeat devices in 630,000 Ram 2500 and Ram 3500 diesel pickup trucks for model years 2013 through 2019. The EPA described what Cummins did. Its engine control software was designed to pass standard EPA emissions tests while artificially reducing the effectiveness of emission controls and increasing nitrogen oxide output during normal real-world driving conditions. That is a defeat device. It is the same defeat device that Corey Willis went to federal court for selling. Cummins installed that device in 630,000 trucks that American truck owners purchased at full price. The settlement total, including recall costs, exceeded $2 billion. Cummins did not go to prison. No Cummins executive was sentenced to home detention. The company paid a fine, a large one, but a fine. In March 2025, a federal judge accepted the guilty plea of Hino Motors Limited, a subsidiary of Toyota, in a $1.6 billion settlement for a multi-year criminal conspiracy to fraudulently evade federal and state diesel emission standards. Between 2010 and 2019, Hino engineers submitted false emissions test data to regulators. They altered test results. They conducted tests improperly. They fabricated data without conducting underlying tests. Over 105,000 non-conforming diesel engines were imported into the United States between 2010 and 2022 as a result of that fraud. Hino was sentenced to 5 years of probation and prohibited from importing diesel engines into the United States for the duration. No engineer went to prison. The company paid. The company continued operating. And before both of those cases, there was Volkswagen. The original Dieselgate settlement remains the clearest statement of the rule as it actually works. Volkswagen installed defeat device software in 11 million vehicles worldwide, 590,000 of them in the United States. The devices made those vehicles appear compliant during EPA testing, while emitting up to 40 times the permitted level of nitrogen oxide during normal driving. The U.S. civil penalty alone was $1.45 billion. That was the previous record for a Clean Air Act civil penalty before Cummins broke it in 2024. Volkswagen also paid additional criminal penalties, funded vehicle buybacks, and settled consumer litigation for a total U.S. exposure exceeding $25 billion. The enforcement record in the diesel emissions space is therefore this. Cummins installed defeat devices in 630,000 customer trucks and paid $1.675 billion. Hino fabricated emissions test data for a decade and paid $1.6 billion. Volkswagen deceived 11 million customers worldwide and paid tens of billions of dollars. Corey Willis sold tuning software to 175,000 diesel truck owners who wanted it and was sentenced to home detention and $3.1 million in combined penalties. An Indiana man who grossed $4.3 million tuning hundreds of diesel trucks went to federal prison for 4 months. The rule is not applied evenly. The manufacturers cheat at scale and write checks. The shop owners and tuners serve time. Part 4. The state picture that most owners misunderstand. In 2024, New Jersey added diesel pickup truck emissions testing to its vehicle inspection program. Detection rates for emissions violations among diesel pickups in New Jersey increased 430% year over year after that change. 430%. That is what happens when a state adds one inspection protocol. Colorado has operated strict diesel truck emissions testing in Front Range counties since 2024. A deleted truck in Colorado cannot pass inspection and cannot renew its registration. California Air Resources Board, known as CARB, imposes separate state fines of up to $5,000 per tampering violation, stacked on top of any federal civil penalty. A deleted truck driven from Texas into California crosses into full enforcement territory the moment it enters the state. New York requires intact DPF systems to pass inspection in most counties. A missing DPF means immediate inspection failure and no registration. Minnesota, Maryland, and Massachusetts operate under California-influenced enforcement frameworks. The EPA also does not wait for inspection programs to find violations. It monitors online marketplaces and social media for shops that advertise delete services. It then investigates those shops and, in documented cases, pursues their customers. The individual owner fine for a first-time violation ranges from $3,000 to $7,500 in 2026. Repeat violations reach $10,000 to $25,000. And EPA civil fine exposure does not require a failed inspection to be triggered. It requires only that the EPA decides to pursue the case. Part 5. The contradiction the law has not resolved. Sit with this for a moment. On March 27, 2026, the EPA announced that eliminating its mandated DEF urea quality sensor would save American truck operators $13 billion annually. The EPA's own press release used the words needless frustration, operational delays, and real economic hardship to describe what its mandated emissions system had been doing to farmers and truckers for 15 years. The EPA issued guidance calling its own derate mechanism an unacceptable failure. That same EPA retains full legal authority to issue a civil fine of up to $45,000 per violation against the truck owner who removed the system the agency just called needlessly frustrating. The Clean Air Act does not have an exception for systems the EPA later admits are not working. The fine exists whether or not the thing you removed was doing what it was supposed to do. The only pending remedy is the Diesel Truck Liberation Act, a bill that would legalize emissions deletes on diesel trucks registered for private use. As of April 2026, that bill has not passed Congress. It has not cleared the Senate. It has not been signed into law. Until it is, Section 203 of the Clean Air Act is the legal reality for every diesel truck owner in every state in America. The first thing they are doing is understanding the distinction between what is legal and what is currently being prosecuted. These are different things. The Department of Justice memo means federal prosecutors will not send you to prison for a personal truck modification. The Environmental Protection Agency's civil enforcement authority is intact. If a complaint is filed, if a roadside inspection flags your truck, if your state inspection fails you, the civil fine exposure is real, and the mandate to restore emissions equipment at your expense is documented in case after case. The second thing they are doing is requesting the free DF software update available under the Environmental Protection Agency's August 2025 guidance. If your truck is throwing DF-related fault codes or entering derate events from sensor inaccuracies, that update is available at no cost from your manufacturer. Contact the manufacturer directly and reference the August 2025 Environmental Protection Agency guidance. This resolves the primary frustration that drives most owners toward delete territory in the first place. The third thing is emissions-compliant performance tuning. Environmental Protection Agency. Compliant calibrations that optimize fuel delivery, boost pressure, and transmission shift points within the factory emissions parameters deliver documented gains of 40 to 60 horsepower and 2 to 4 miles per gallon, with zero civil fine exposure and no effect on manufacturer warranty coverage. That is 60 to 80% of the gains without any of the legal risk. The fourth thing is documentation. Every emission system repair on a truck within the warranty period should be documented in full. Keep every invoice. Keep every repair order. Keep every diagnostic report. The Environmental Protection Agency is pursuing rulemaking to permanently eliminate diesel exhaust fluid deratements for new vehicles. If that rulemaking produces remediation requirements, documented repair history is the asset that positions owners to participate in whatever relief the agency requires manufacturers to provide. The Clean Air Act law that made Corey Willis pay $3.1 million is the same law governing your truck today. Cummins installed the same type of device in 630,000 trucks and paid a civil fine. Hino fabricated emissions data for 9 years and paid a civil fine. Both companies are still operating. The law is not neutral. It punishes shop owners and individual tuners with prison time and fines. It punishes manufacturers with civil settlements they can absorb as a cost of doing business. And it continues to require you to maintain a system the Environmental Protection Agency has publicly called needlessly frustrating and a source of real economic hardship, while reserving the right to fine you $45,000 for removing it. That is the legal landscape. It is documented in federal court records. It is on the Environmental Protection Agency website. And it is not going away until Congress amends the statute. Have you been approached by a shop offering a delete, or been told the Department of Justice memo made diesel tuning legal? Sound off in the comments below, because the accurate information is the only thing standing between this community and a 5-figure fine for a decision made on bad information. If you want the truth about what you can and cannot do with the truck you own, hit the subscribe button and join the resistance. Keep the old iron running. Keep turning your own wrenches. And we will see you in the next one.